This is the third part of the lesson for Secondary 1 Math, Lesson 1-3, so continuing on with parts of an expression. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is translate each verbal expression to an algebraic expression. So math is its own language, and in order to go from English to math, we have to understand what certain words mean and how we can translate it into a mathematical situation so that we can use our math rules and principles and properties in order to solve problems. And so this is kind of one of the things that when we deal with story problems and stuff, sometimes it can be a real stumbling block because people don't understand how to translate from an English or a verbal expression to an algebraic or a mathematical expression. So that's what we're going to practice right here. So number 10, it says the quotient of m and 5 decreased by 14. So those are some important words. So quotient, what does the word quotient mean? Quotient is the answer to a division problem. So that means that for number 10, I'm going to be dividing something. All right, so in math, in higher math, we don't use this symbol to divide. We're not going to do that. We're going to use a fraction bar. That's what we do in higher math. So I'm going to divide something. What should I divide? I'm going to divide m and 5. So m divided by 5. It's important that you do it in that order because remember that a quotient or a division problem, that's not commutative. You can't do it in whatever order you want. So m divided by 5 and then decreased by. If something is decreased, would you say that's add, subtract, multiply, or divide? If you're decreasing, you're going to be subtracting. What should we subtract? We'll subtract 14. And so what this expression is this expression, the quotient of m and 5 decreased by 14, comes out to an algebraic expression of m divided by 5 minus 14. Okay, number 11, it says the sum. Okay, so what is a sum? Okay, a sum is the answer to what kind of question? It's the answer to an addition problem. Okay, so that means I'm going to be adding something. What should I add? X squared and 8. X squared and 8. That's what I'm going to add, and that's my expression. So I'm just taking these words and I'm putting it into an expression that we can do math with later on. Okay, number 12, the difference between. Okay, so there's another word for us, difference. And you might want to be writing these down if you don't already know them. But the difference, if I say, what's the difference between your age and your mom's age? You would take how old your mom is and you would subtract your age. And so the difference is the answer to an addition, to a subtraction problem. Okay, so I'm going to be subtracting something. So what should I subtract? I'm going to subtract 12 and v cubed. So 12 minus v cubed, and that's your expression. So if you just know a couple of key words here, you're going to be able to write these expressions as mathematical expressions with not too much trouble. Okay, 1/3 the difference. If you have a third of something, if you have a third of x, you're going to write it like that. So if I say a third of the difference, well, the word difference means I'm going to be subtracting something. So I have to subtract something, and then whatever the answer is, I have to take a third of it. So I'm going to take a third of the answer. So that means I'm putting parentheses because I have to first find out what my difference is. So what should I subtract? 2 times c and 3. 2 times c, subtract 3. That's my answer. That's my expression. So 1/3 the difference of 2 times c and 3. Okay, the next one, product. What does the word product mean? Okay, product is the answer to a multiplication problem. And so I'm going to multiply something. And in advanced math, which we're not doing elementary school math anymore, in advanced math we use a dot to indicate multiplication, or we would use parentheses, but we don't use an x. You can start to see why it's not good to use an x here. We're going to do the product of, so we're going to multiply something. What should we multiply? Y to the 4th power and -7. And we talked about before on one of the earlier lessons, and then we're also going to talk about it here because it's not correct to write it like that. So you'd want to write -7 times y to the 4th because your coefficient is always going to come first. So you'd want to have a final answer of that. Okay, and then number 15, 1/2 the quotient. So I need to divide something. What should I divide W and Y? You can write it like that, or you can write it without the parentheses. You could write 1 times W over 2 times Y. That would be the same thing. So again, there's a couple different ways that you can write some of these things. Okay, so the next set of questions is just reviewing solving two-step equations. So I'm going to have you pause the video and get about 5 to 8 minutes to work on these 4 questions, 16 through 19, and then I'll go through with how to do them real quickly. Okay, number 16, if you put your finger over the W, we're going to add 7 to both sides because that's what's left. So I'm going to have negative 3W equals 14 and 7 is 21. I'm going to divide by negative 3, not add negative 3, or not add 3. I'm going to divide by negative 3. So I'm going to have W is equal to 21 divided by negative 3 is negative 7. So I'm going to write W such that W equals negative 7 as my answer in set notation. Okay, number 16, if I put my finger over the variable, I'm going to be adding 10 because that's what's left for me. So negative 16 plus 10 is negative 6. And that's going to be equal to 1/2 x. And then if I want to get rid of the 1/2, instead of dividing by 1/2, which you can do, but it's going to be easier to multiply by 2 over 1. So 2 times negative 6 is negative 12. And then this is where that's going to go away. So x is equal to negative 12. So I'm going to write x such that x is equal to negative 12. Okay, number 18. I am going to put my finger over the variable part. And so I'm going to subtract my 1. So I'm going to have 7y, this is going to be gone, equals negative 9, and negative 1 is negative 10. Divide by 7, and so I'm going to have y is equal to, don't panic and don't put it in your calculator, it's just negative 10 sevenths. So y such that y is equal to negative 10 over 7. I do not want a decimal. I definitely do not want a mixed number like 1 and 3/7. Don't do that. Okay, number 19. Put your finger over the variable part. This is a positive 8, so I'm going to subtract 8. This minus sign right there, that goes with the 3. So I'm not going to do anything with that right now. So I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides. So I'm going to have negative 3v is equal to 5, and a negative 8 is negative 3. Now it says negative 3 times v, so I'm going to divide. So v is equal to negative 3 divided by negative 3 is positive 1. So I'm going to write v such that v is equal to 1. Okay, going over 20 and 21. If you haven't done them yet, then pause the video so that you can do those. Okay, I'm going to put my finger over the variable part. I'm going to subtract my 9 from both sides. And so what I've got left is I've got negative m over 4 equals 7, and negative 9 is negative 2. Now we talked before about how this negative, that can either go with the m or with the 4. It does not matter which one. And so I'm going to choose to put that negative with the 4. It just makes the next step a little bit easier. So instead of dividing by negative 4, I'm going to multiply by negative 4. And multiply by negative 4. So I'm going to have m is equal to negative 2 times negative 4 is positive 8. So m such that m is equal to 8. Okay, and then number 21. Put your finger over the variable. I'm going to add 3. Negative 12 and 3 is negative 9. And that's equal to my 6c, and then the 3 and the negative 3 canceled each other out. So I'm going to divide by 6, divide by 6. Okay, so this is one where you might want to say, oh, I'm going to put it in my calculator, and you get a decimal. I do not want a decimal. So the negative 9 over 6, let's write it as this, negative 1, and then 9 is 3 times 3. And on the bottom, 6 is 2 times 3. Do you see anything in common that would cancel out, like 3 divided by 3? And so what I have left is negative 1 times 3 is negative 3 over 2, and that's equal to c. So c, such that c is equal to negative 3/2, is the correct answer here. Okay, number 22 and 23, if you haven't done these yet, then pause the video so that you can do them. Okay, this negative k, I'm going to cover that up. I'm going to add 14. So I'm going to have negative k is equal to 11, and 14 is 25. I don't care what negative k is. I want to know what k is. So I could multiply that by negative 1. Negative 1 times negative k is positive k, and 25 times negative 1 is negative 25. Now you might say, oh, well, I didn't do that. I divided by negative 1. That's okay. Negative 1 is kind of one of those really cool numbers where you can do a couple of things and it comes out the same. So I could have divided by negative 1. Negative 1 divided by negative 1 is still k, and 25 divided by negative 1 is still negative 25. So it doesn't matter. Okay, and then number 23, if you put your finger over the variable part, I've got minus 20, so I'm going to add 20. And so I'm going to have negative p over 8, and then this is gone, and negative 15 plus 20 is 5. Now remember what I said about the negatives. We can either put it with the p or with the 8. It's going to make it a lot easier if I put it with the 8. So p divided by negative 8. So instead of divide by negative 8, I'm going to multiply by negative 8. Multiply by negative 8. So I'm going to have p equals 5 times negative 8 is negative 40. So that's my answer. Okay, so that ends the lesson. So you should be able to write expressions and tell the parts of the expression. You should be able to solve the equations and translate verbal expressions. And so you should be able to do your homework now.